Coming up on the Morning Report, new information about an apartment fire that left a child dead and dozens of people homeless. We'll have the latest from Holton. Plus,
bills targeting LGBTQ communities are in the spotlight right now. We'll have a look at how some Mainers are working to protect kids in our state. And then later, some changes could be in store for one of Maine's biggest food truck scenes, what the Eastern Prom in Portland might look like come summertime.
A messy mix moves in for the morning commute. I've got you covered. This is the Morning Report.
Good morning, I'm Sharon Rose.
And I'm Lee Goldberg. Let's get over to Mr. I Got You Covered and see if he can cover me with some sunshine.
Not going to happen. I don't have that covered for you.
Then I guess you don't have me covered.
I don't have you covered, but everyone else I do. Good morning, everybody. Let's take a look at the maps here. Winter weather advisories for the north, for the mountains, down through Lewiston and the Sebago Lake area, too. These are in place through this morning. Some of the ones in the mountains and north through tomorrow morning. Could have some slippery conditions out there. Here's the first wave of precip. Snow and sleet and rain. Depends on where you are. I threw temps on here to give you an idea where there will be some problems. Notice the coastline, all in the mid to upper 30s. Primarily wet, even though sleet pellets are mixing in. As you go inland, though, it gets colder. This wedge of cold is hanging tough in Sebago, in Naples, in Lewiston, and Turner, up through Augusta and Waterville, and on into the western Maine mountains, too. Slippery spots likely, and some accumulation likely, too. Roads might need a treatment. We're starting to get the flakes into the Bangor area. It's only 30 in Bangor, so it could be slick in town, too. Off to the west, Newport and Plymouth, 31 with some snowflakes, some snow back through Waterville, and some sleet mixing in Augusta. There's the coastline. Rain mixed with sleet for the Penobscot Bay area. We'll watch this precip slide to the north and east. Take it easy on the roads. Use caution. Assume it's slippery. It's probably not for the coastline, though. That rain line, by the way, will be creeping inland through noontime for Lewiston, Augusta, and Bangor. And while we catch a little bit of a lull in the action this afternoon and evening, we'll still have some rain showers, some sleet showers, and some snow showers through the evening commute. 3 to 6 inches of snow. 6 inches for Aroostook County, 3 inches for the Rangeley area, 1 to 3 for the hills and the Central Highlands, and everywhere else it's less than an inch, primarily on grass and decks. So we don't have to worry too much about our roadways down to the coast. An icy mix and rain with slippery spots, 32. Rain for most of us by the middle of the day and afternoon, but we'll continue to see some snow and sleet up north. Highs only upper 30s. More on this storm, and we'll look ahead to the weekend in just a few minutes.
All right, thank you, Todd. Now to that breaking news we're covering out of Belfast.
Yeah, there's been a fire going on all morning long. Crews have been there as well trying to put it out. Alex Haskell also there and is live on the scene. Alex, what's going on there?
Haley and Sharon, good morning. I'm outside of the Penobscot McCrum potato processing plant here in Belfast. And as you can maybe see behind me, lots of smoke, flames coming out, and crews. There are about 7 of them on the scene. They're still trying to fight this fire. I spoke with Camden Fire Chief Chris Farley. He's one of the crews here responding to the fire. He was called in around 3:30 this morning. Now, this first shot you see here as we go to video is looking at the fire from US 1. That's the bridge that goes over the Belfast Bay. Now, Chief Farley tells me that they don't have much information on how this fire got started, but no one was injured. So that's some good news we have this morning. Farley says he does have some information he wants the public to keep in mind.
This is a fairly big operation. You can see a lot of dark black smoke. It'd be best to stay away from this area of the downtown Belfast.
And Chief Farley expects that they will continue fighting this fire well into the morning, and we'll, of course, keep you updated on air and online as we get more information. Live in Belfast this morning, Alex Haskell, News Center, Maine.
All right, Alex, thank you. We're also following a fire in Aroostook County this morning. This fire left a child dead, close to 40 people without a home. It started yesterday morning in an apartment building on Mechanic Street in Holton. Firefighters were on the scene well into the night. A 12-year-old boy and a 4-year-old girl and 4-year-old boy were in an apartment home alone at the time of the fire. The 4-year-old boy died from his injuries. The 4-year-old girl was taken to the hospital to get treated for smoke inhalation, and the 12-year-old boy was taken by life flight to Maine Medical Center in Portland. He is expected to survive. State police say that the building, though, is a total loss. Town leaders say the Holton community is already trying to help the people who live there.
We've had a lot of assistance The people of this community, the businesses and organizations and individuals have been coming out and asking what they can do for help, providing food for firefighters and for the displaced individuals. And it's a small community, and as such, everybody cares about each other, and we're heartbroken.
The Holton Civic Center was open last night as a temporary shelter for the people who lived in the building. Investigators still obviously trying to figure out what happened there.
A 12-year-old boy is dead after a skiing accident in Fort Kent. Ethan Townsend was a 7th grader at Valley Rivers Middle School. His class had been on a field trip to Lonesome Pine Trails. In a letter to families, the Fort Kent superintendent says a crisis team will be available today for students, parents, and school staff in the district. There is also a GoFundMe set up for Ethan's family. So far, it has raised more than $14,000. As of today, it has been 1 month since Russia invaded Ukraine.
Yeah, the destruction across the country has led to a huge refugee crisis all across Eastern Europe. In total, about 10 million people do not have a place to live. Many of them are still in shelters in Ukraine. But more than 3.5 million people have crossed the borders into other countries. Poland has taken in the most people. The mayor of Warsaw says the population of his city has increased by 20% in just 3 weeks. He says his city is stretched to the limits.
We cannot improvise anymore. At a peak, a week ago, I had to call other mayors of Polish and European cities in the middle of the night to ask them to help us out.
So now the mayor you just heard from is planning to ask President Biden if he could help. The two are scheduled to meet tomorrow while President Biden is in Europe. The White House has already talked about providing more opportunities for Ukrainian refugees to relocate to the United States. No official plan, though, has been released yet. Also, no word on whether or not Maine would be able to expect any of the Ukrainian refugees. The state's two official resettlement agencies have both said they are prepared if and when that happens.
Well, they may be small, but plankton could be a key in combating climate change. We'll explain coming up. First, though, Todd, one thing to know about today?
Well, it's not often that we get a spring snow map, so let's share it. There will be some snow and sleet accumulation today, tonight, through tomorrow morning, most of which will be up in the mountains and especially across far northern Maine where there could be a half a foot. The rest of the area, primarily some slushy coatings of sleet and snow on the grass. Roads should remain in decent shape through the morning, although slick spots away from the coastline are looking pretty likely. Stormy's out, live in Portland with wet roads in the city. I'll have more in just a sec.
As the oceans continue to warm up, a new study suggests that one of the sea's smallest creatures could actually help slow down the impact of climate change.
So Boothbay Bigelow Laboratory is behind this new study. The lab is based in Boothbay, which makes sense. Researchers looked at data from the past 30 years. The study suggests that plankton can adapt and absorb more climate-warming carbon than what had previously been thought. Researchers say the plankton's adaptability is positive news, and it might be that the ocean is more resilient to climate change than we actually think.
You've probably heard about bills across the country that target people in the LGBTQ community. Why this still hits home for a lot of Mainers, even though it's happening elsewhere, up next.
6:41, kids are out the door shortly. They're going to encounter some slippery spots and some raindrops and sleet pellets and snowflakes, so umbrellas and boots needed. And they'll need them most of the day. It's probably an indoor recess day after school. Not likely getting on the fields. A little too wet and crummy out there. Highs only in the 30s. Got more on this storm looking ahead to the weekend as well. It's all coming up right after this.
All right, Todd's back. It is Thursday, creeping towards the weekend, and going to deal with some weather-ish today.
It's rainy, it's snowy,
Good.
It's sleety,
Good.
It's crummy. That's spring in Maine, right? That about sums it
That's
up.
bad news. This is good news. We want to give you a quick update on our new Center Maine blood drive from the 5 locations across the state. All of you donated 171 units of blood yesterday. That could potentially save up to 513 lives. 513, that's amazing. We want to thank all of you who were able to come out and donate. If you didn't donate, but you still want to, you can find a date and a time, redcrossblood.org. So thank you for that.
It's so great that we filled all the slots on the day that it happened, but we'd love to have even more spillover, into the drives that are coming up and the regular locations where you can go and give. So if you can, it'd be a great thing to do.
See, that was happier than what you're going to talk about.
Yeah, glad you stepped in there and did that, because I was going in a darker place. But we got to go back to that dark place. Winter weather advisories for a good chunk of the state until tomorrow morning for northern Maine and the mountains. The ones that are closer to the coast in places like Lewiston and Sebago Lake area will be dropped probably around noon or this afternoon. First wave of precip coming in now. A lot of it is in the frozen form as we have a wedge of cold air over the state, which is going to take a little while to erode. I did pop on the temps here so you get an idea of where I think we're going to end up with some problems, a few problems this morning. They will not occur along the coastline. Even though sleet pellets are mixing in, it's 37 in New Harbor, it's 34 in Bath, it's 37 in Portland, it's 39 down in Wells. As you go inland, though, where there's more sleet and snow and colder temperatures, better opportunity for accumulation, not only on decks and on, the gas grill, but also on sidewalks, driveways, and some roads too are likely going to need a treatment this morning. Sebago just 33, Naples is 32, Lewiston 33, Turner is 32, and we stay right around that temp as you head up through the Oxford Hills and into the western Maine mountains. Eastern Maine, we're just now starting to saturate the air, starting to see a few light snowflakes in the Bangor area, snowflakes mixed with raindrops and sleet pellets closer to the coast, steadier snow for Plymouth, Newport, back through Waterville and Augusta, probably some pellets in there too. Same thing down along the mid-coast, but the temperatures are at or below freezing, so there could be slippery spots for eastern Maine at the onset as well. We'll eventually erode this cold air that's in place, but we won't get into the warm sectors, so we're going to stay with these chilly drops for the afternoon and evening, and then finally that low swings overhead tonight with the final wave of precip. So let's go through the timeline here so you get the gist of what's happening. First wave crosses the state this morning, temps hovering near 32. Treatments may be required and needed, salt, sand for traction, that kind of thing. Midday, the rain line creeps north through Lewiston, Augusta up to about Bangor. Temps barely move though, so some lingering slippery spots are likely through the middle of the day away from the coast. And we're going to see a bit of a lull in the action this afternoon and evening, but we're still getting rain showers, sleet showers, and snow showers. I think the commute this evening though will be better with mostly just wet roads thanks to the lighter precip and also road treatments that we're going to get this morning from the crews that'll be out there. Sorry they got to go out again. It's late in the season, I know. All right, we pick up the story around midnight. Showers continue, and then boom, some heavier rain between midnight and about 3 o'clock in the morning. This is when we'll get some steadier snow in the mountains in far north. It's gone, though, by about 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. And tomorrow afternoon looks a lot better with some sunshine developing. Snow map essentially unchanged. Snow mixed with some sleet will accumulate across the states. Today and tonight, we'll get about 6 inches for northern Maine, 3 inches western Maine mountains, 1 to 3 for the hills and the highlands, and then everyone else, you get like a coating of sleet or slushy, something like that, on the grass mostly and not so much on the roads. Better tomorrow, pretty good on Saturday. Sunday, an Arctic front comes in, a rain shower in the afternoon, and then bam, we get hit hard by some cold air. Early next week, and most of next week actually looks really cold with temps only in the 30s, which is about 10 degrees below average. Pretty cold stuff for the end of March and early April. Here's the marine forecast. Small crafts are up for the seas that are building and for the winds that are picking up out of the southeast. Mixed precip and rain today, tonight, tomorrow morning. I showed you who's going to get what. Tomorrow afternoon, we break out with a little sunshine, 45 to 50. On Saturday, we start with sun, we end with clouds, similar temps, upper 40s, an isolated shower on Sunday, so most of the weekend is fine. Early next week, though, you'll be reaching for gloves, hats, and winter, the winter gear, the heavier jacket, the puffy one. It's going to be cold,
All the
really
stuff I
cold.
put away, you mean?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
Or
You
buried
know
in the
better
closet.
than that. I don't
but
believe
it's a
it.
state of mind. It made me feel
Right.
good to do it.
Yeah,
Right.
I hear you.
And then I'll be annoyed. Pull it back out. All right. Well, anyway, that's what we'll do.
Now we have this. Across the country, there have been a number of laws restricting the rights of LGBTQ people. A recent example is the Florida legislation passing the controversial Don't Say Gay bill earlier this month.
So the bill limits the classroom discussion of sexual orientation and gender identity in grades K through 3rd grade. Now in Maine, we're known to be a fairly queer-friendly state, but young people here might struggle knowing that these challenges are going on in other places.
Right, our Alex Haskell has details this morning on resources out there for young queer Mainers and what's being done to protect their rights.
This is having a very clear impact on our youth.
Dr. Julia McDonald says that impact can vary depending on where you live.
Oftentimes, rural areas have a little bit less exposure to queer, non-binary, and trans youth.
Meaning more barriers for those questioning their gender and place in society to getting affirming and inclusive care. But organizations like Maine Transnet offer the Youth Discord server,
which is a safe online space for teenagers.
Other programs and services exist as well.
We've had cases where the teen will go by a different name at school or at home than they do here.
Joshua Westco is coordinator of the Bangor YMCA Teen Center.
We are a teen program, a drop-in center for ages 12 to 18. We're open Monday to Fridays, 2 p.m. to 6 p.m.
Days and hours for teens to be themselves, no questions asked.
If they're not feeling like they're necessarily accepted at home or at school or something, this is the place for them to go to be accepted, to be around like-minded teens.
As laws diminish or even threaten rights, services, and acceptance for LGBTQ communities in other states, Maine lawmakers are working to ensure they are protected.
The bills that we're seeing passed in other states across the country, they could be reality here.
Maine Speaker of the House Ryan Fecteau says lawmakers like himself have passed laws to ban conversion therapy, stop the ban of trans athletes in girls' sports, and as of this week, took steps to protect the privacy of transgender Mainers.
We want to support our young people, and we want to make sure that they feel loved and supported and affirmed, and that they shouldn't feel like they can't call Maine home.
Dr. McDonald, whom you heard from at the beginning of that story, also mentioned some resources for parents on how they can be better allies. She says they can go to the trevorproject.org website, and we will have that web address and a list of resources on our website a little bit later this morning. All right, although it might not feel like summer is anywhere near, it does mean that food trucks will be back around the state soon.
All right, in Portland, there might be some changes to one of the most popular food truck spots, and that is Portland's Committee on the Sustainability and Transportation approving a new pilot program for all food trucks on the Eastern Prom. They came up with the plan because people who live nearby have been concerned about overcrowding, trash, carbon emissions, and noise. Part of the plan is to rework the layout of the trucks. There would be less room for parking, but more room for pedestrians. The program would also include instituting some kind of a lottery program when it comes to who gets to be a vendor on the Eastern Prom.
You know, we're not trying to force anybody out in these proposals, but we do need to kind of manage it, and I think drilling down into the details as to how we select those spots and the vendors is something that we kind of need to iron out a little bit more.
City officials say they are looking to add more electric outlets, underground trash receptacles. This would start out as a 6-month pilot program, and if it is approved, it would go into effect on the 15th of April. All right, still to come, 5 things to get you ready as you head out your door on this Thursday.
First, though, here's what they're working on for the Today Show.
We've heard about Russian troops running out of food and fuel, but according to a new NATO estimate, up to 15,000 Russian troops have been killed so far, and thousands more have been injured or simply walked off the battlefield. I'll have a full story coming up on the Today Show.
Good morning, I'm News Center Maine's Alex Haskell. Here's 5 things to know as you start your day. I'm live in Belfast outside of the Penobscot-McCrum potato processing plant, where several different departments are here fighting a fire. There's no word yet on how the fire started, and a fire chief here says that no one was injured. And according to finance company Dun & Bradstreet, the potato processing plant employs about 175 people.
All right, and police and fire officials are also investigating an apartment fire in Holton that left one child dead and 2 others hospitalized. It happened yesterday on Mechanic Street. Police say a 12-year-old boy and a 4-year-old boy and a 4-year-old girl were home alone when the fire broke out. Officials say the 4-year-old boy is the one who died from his injuries. The American Red Cross is helping almost 40 people displaced by the fire. State police say the building is a total loss.
A 12-year-old boy has died after a skiing accident in Fort Kent. Ethan Townsend was a 7th grader at Valley Rivers Middle School. His class had been on a field trip to Lonesome Pine Trails. The Fort Kent superintendent of schools says support services will be available today to students, parents, and staff in that district.
Maine Senator Susan Collins is urging the Biden administration to make it easier for Ukrainians to come to the U.S. and stay with family members. Collins also is pressing for more military and humanitarian aid. She says the U.S. must ensure Ukraine has a means to defend itself from the, quote, ongoing atrocities.
Maine lawmakers are working on a handful of bills related to marijuana. The proposals address telehealth access, the selling of plants by caregivers, and privacy protection. After a year of sales, the recreational marijuana industry is booming in our state. A new study shows that sales grew by an average of 20% each month in the state of Maine. The research from Colby College also suggests total sales reached $60 million in the industry's first 12 months. All right, final check of the forecast on this Thursday.
Yeah, a little dicey in spots this morning, especially inland and away from the coastline. Here's the snow and sleet accumulation map. As you can see, it's mostly up through the hills and mountains, where there'll be several inches, and this continues through the night into tomorrow morning. Elsewhere, watch out for some slick spots, but a lot of the roads, I think, are just going to be on the wet side. As we roll through this storm and get into the weekend, it does improve. I mean, we're not going to have perfectly sunny days. Saturday morning looks real nice. Sunday's decent, a scattered shower. Next week, we won't even talk about yet. It's going to be really cold.
All right, well, you guys enjoy your Thursday. Take a look at the roads right now. Tom Phillips is out there. Stay safe, everyone.